Hello.
Hi.
Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome along. Just let some more people in. All good. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Hi, Lewis. You okay?
Yeah, thank you. All good.
Excellent. Good to see you here, mate. And yeah, I watched back last week's call where I was stuck in Spain and Lewis stepped in, and it was really good to hear you all speak and all share. So yeah, I really do appreciate that. And, yeah, bank holiday weekend here. It's a bit of a quiet start to the week after a bank holiday, but it's all good. Lovely to see you all. Did everyone have a nice weekend or long weekend? All positive. Yeah, lovely. Paul Hutchinson's lovely sitting outside. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You look cold. What's going on? What's all that about? Is it cold? Do you want to unmute, Paul?
Think he's trying to.
Hi,
Oh, he's
mate.
there.
Sorry, yeah. Yeah, I've been relegated outside because my wife's on another call inside, so it's a bit fresh at the moment in the shade.
Bit of priorities. Yeah, it looks
Need
warm
the sun
behind.
to come round.
Yeah, it looks warm behind you. You'll have a warm.
Yeah, it's lovely over there. It's
Yeah.
freezing here.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Okay, good. So, welcome all. Thanks all for being here. I've hit record. I will send out all of the recordings and catch up with all of that in the coming days. But thank you to David Senior for 2 weeks ago for taking that. Thank you for Lewis for taking last last week. Lewis, are you there? Yeah, Lewis. Any reflections on last week's session? I watched it back, or most of it back last night. Any reflections and people things that people were sharing?
I just think it's great that the more and more people are sharing. I think it's a testament to the way these sessions come together, giving people an opportunity to share. I just want to share one thing with you. I have to leave in 30 minutes. With Laura and I are doing our next two podcast recordings, and the lady's pretty tight with the time.
Yeah, that's fine.
So if you need anything from me, please do it in the next 28 minutes.
That's fine. And has everyone listened to Lewis's first episode of the Intentional CEO podcast? Yeah, it was great, wasn't it? Very very funny in places. There's going to be some more interesting stories. Uh, Personally, I've been very fortunate firsthand to hear a lot of these stories firsthand. On our day-to-day travels and stuff. But the one with drilling, getting the welder to cut through the main structure of the rig was certainly a. I suppose you call it a high point or a low point, Lewis, would you?
Both. And it's certainly, I have had people writing to me I haven't heard from for 25 years. So, yeah.
Saying something like that was you, was it? Oh, I love it. It's so good. Anyway, brilliant stuff. Great to see you all. Thanks all for being here. Let's have a look at intentional leadership today. As Lewis is only here actually for the first half an hour, and with the permission from myself, Lewis, and Paul, I'm not sure if I've shown you all the cover to Personalities Remixed. Some of you saw it on Saturday at the e-colors training, but I thought I'd show you. Here's the cover. All lovely, come together. There you go. You guys all got the inside track, but surrounded by potential, personalities remixed, and then there it all is. So yeah, that's coming together. Release date June the 24th. So we're very much looking forward to that getting out into the world, and you can use that as your calling card as an e-colors practitioner as well. So very good stuff. So, this morning, intentional leadership. Lewis, is it fair to say that intentional leadership came about as a further development after the e-colors, after pause and play and personal intervention, being intentional was the next step? Is that fair?
Yeah. Yes. Do you want the actual history of the moment?
Why not? Yeah.
So, Laura, my daughter, and I had actually were writing a book called At the End of the Day. And we got a writer to help us, like a writing coach to help us. And the whole book is written on the premise of chapter by me, chapter by Laura, chapter by me, etc. And I was actually in Dubai, working with a client, with another coach. And the writer wrote to me and said, "Hey, I just want to check a story that Laura has basically dedicated nearly a whole chapter to, and I just want to get your side of the story." So she went on to tell me about an event which had happened when Laura was about 12 years old. And when she finished telling me the story, I said, look, I got to be absolutely honest. I have zero recollection of this event. And I distinctly remember turning around to the other coach and said, you know what? In the future, from this moment on, I am going to be intentional with everything that I do and everything that comes out of my mouth. And started the journey there. A few years later, was actually having dinner with Mark Nelson, who's written one of the forwards, who's now the vice chairman of Chevron. And I said, the people that we work with in for an ex-Navy pilot, they talk a lot about deliberate leadership. I'm thinking of going with intentional leadership. He said, go with intentional leadership. And here we are today. It's the more intentional you are, the better the outcome. I mean, I see that happening all the time, every day.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a really interesting point, actually, isn't it? I think when we're younger as well, especially if we are faster paced, there's things that can happen without us being in any way aware or intentional. And I think that's where, all of this work comes together. Um, yeah, including the Equilibria, including the Life Remixed, and certainly intentional leadership. You put it all together, and it just makes a better human being. And obviously, I say obviously, Lewis and I speak from experience on this one, because we've made a lot of changes in our lives over the years, and that's our mission, right? That's our mission, to help other people. And actually, Andy Ward, I saw you on yesterday. You did a session. You've done a session with one of your DJ colleagues, Scott, I believe, and
Yeah.
I saw his testimonial. I mean, how do you feel about that? How did it go? And intentional leadership and all that kind of stuff. Did it work well?
Really good, yeah. His colours are the same as my own, red, yellow. So it was really interesting to be able to have a really comfortable conversation with him and really relate to anything he was telling me with regards to his frustrations or his short fuse. And this, the tattoo on my hand, we talk about intentional leadership. I've got it blazoned upon me. I know everyone here has already seen it. I've got tattooed on my hand, live with intention, because once you grasp that, it's just so powerful. But coming back to what you were saying about Scott, it's just always wonderful to see those aha moments. And he's really got the bit between his teeth, so to speak. And he says, right, I'm going to come back to you because I've got more questions.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's really, just sharing this is fantastic.
Yeah, wonderful, mate. Great to hear that. And it's the intentional piece, of that communication. It's giving people a tool to be able to really work with something that can allow them to make sense of what's going on around them, or indeed what's going on within them, as well, which I think is a really powerful piece. So thanks, guys, for that. You all know, please, to rename with your e-colours, although I do know the majority of you, but if you get a chance just to rename with your e-colours, please do. And do contribute in the chat box, or indeed, just give me a heads up, interrupt by all means. That's absolutely fine. Always good to hear from many of you. Certainly, as it's a bank holiday week, there's quite a lot of people on holiday this week. So, but we'll be sending out the recording as well. So, intentional, being intentional. Am I always intentional? I do my very, very best. Can I do better always? I think that all of us, must know what to do and then be able to continue with that to be able to get it done. You all know the concept, and part of this concept is about making sense of that world, isn't it? It's about understanding how to communicate with everybody, and it is every human being. If you know what that human being has got, I mean, preferably they've done their e-colors even at the complementary level. Um, if you know what that human being needs, then you don't get caught up in anything else. And I think that's a real fast track, isn't it? So appreciating their strengths and their potential limiters is very, very key. You all know my percentages by now, but we keep showing them because it's important. They show up. They show up day in, day out. There are times when I really need to dip into my green and really concentrate and really focus. Not that often, to be fair. Do I need to do it? Not that often does it have to happen, but when it does have to happen, I really do need to get my head into something and make it work. And it can happen. It's just not as easy to get there. We've all got the strengths, we've all got the potential limiters. And the key point is not to overplay strengths and not to allow our potential limiters to rule us. None of us mean to necessarily, unless we're troubled in other ways. None of us mean to come across as any of these, but actually, it's how we might be being perceived. And being able to manage that with your pause button is really, or your play button, is really powerful. Building that strong team is important. If you can see someone else's strengths as a compliment to you and your potential limiters, you will succeed and succeed quicker. And I think that's so important. Not just be pointing out people's potential limiters to them, but observing them and understanding when you're in yours and helping them through theirs can be a real key coaching observation. Using pause and play, as we say. Look, the more intentional we are, the better the outcome. Scott, I see you on the screen. I remember I heard you speak last week about your sessions, your e-color sessions with your daughter, and it was really interesting to observe your top color blue daughter, right, Amy. And what lessons did you take from that about being more intentional from a red perspective?
Um, yeah, I think it's just understanding what that personality is. And for so many years, I couldn't understand where um, it's part of culture, and it's obviously part of her personality that she can be reluctant to come out and face the challenges, head on. And there's so many moving parts where, you know, Andy Ward will probably back me up. We're kind of like a bull in a china shop sometimes, or we used to be. Um, so there's a frustration from both sides. There's a frustration from me towards my daughter because I want things to work, I want things to improve, but you need to help me to help you.
Mm.
And then she needs dad to slow down a bit.
Mm.
It's too much. It's overwhelming.
Mm.
So it's kind of two opposites to be honest. It's and she didn't understand this until we went through our premium report. She didn't
Yeah.
understand where I was coming from, because she did lots of challenges at school, being bullied, actually from teachers. So we'd lots of trouble there, and it's sometimes it felt as if we're just going round in circles.
Really interesting about sometimes being seen as a bit overwhelming. Certainly yellow reds, red yellows, big guys as well. Sometimes when we get in that zone, especially when we were younger, I think I was overwhelming for some people. I know Andy would relate to that. I know Reed would relate to that as well. So Scott, yeah, we understand that for sure. But I think it's important then, swap premium reports. Send your report to Amy. I'm sure she's got it, but make sure she's got it. Let her have a read of it. You keep reading hers as well, because that understanding
Yeah.
across family can be amazing, right? But then just imagine that in millions and billions of people, right? It can be a real game changer.
And then I would add on to that we understand the self-reflection format is used for, part of it's used for becoming a practitioner, but I think that's really so helpful as well because that allows you to lead on to deeper conversations.
Absolutely. It opens the door to those conversations, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I would love to go in and preach the good word of Life Remixed into every corporate environment I go to. It doesn't quite work like that. If I started talking about faith and all those kind of things, people would start to get a bit jittery. But if you go in with e-colors, it really opens the door to the conversation of, hey, look, we're all humans, right? And let's talk about these things. So brilliant, Scott. Thank you. Um, and Andy put in the chat box there as well. Yeah, massive differences in cultures, eras, attitudes, people we're surrounded with. Absolutely, there's so many nuances to that as well, Andy. Yeah, so great. Thank you for putting that in there. So look, we're on our way. We're tracking who we are, gratitude, confidence, positive mental attitude, making sure we've got our leadership and our teamwork in line, and then of course money and growth. And the Money Remix book continues to do its thing out there in the universe, helping lots of people. So that's important. And personalities, yeah, June the 24th. So a mere 7 weeks away. So very productive year, 2025 here. So, key elements, clarifying purpose. I'm amazed at how many people don't clarify their purpose. You can do it my way, which is a nice, catchy slogan, or you could do it Paul Grant's way, which is a lot more detailed. But either way is fine. But you must like be thinking about, why am I getting out of bed today? What am I doing? Because this helps reduce your stress. You know, part of my purpose is to bring joy to other people, and if I can't bring joy to other people, I don't get stressed about it. I just say, okay, I'm clearly not bringing joy here. I'm clearly not bringing enough information. Okay, fine. I'm not doing what I need to do, but that's okay. You know, I'll back away from that situation if I need to, because it's not in line with my purpose. So very, very important that we reflect on our values, purpose, vision, goals, etc., and then share it with all the people around you and understand what's going on. Getting your self-awareness, just encourage more people to take the e-colors questionnaire, and then reflect on the leadership, of yours, and your team members, and prioritize one-on-ones with people. Make sure there's empathy, open communication, psychological safety. It needs to be built. It needs to be built. But if you continue building it, you will get to where you need to get to. Then empower people, delegate, encourage autonomy, support development, allow people to think for themselves. You know, show them guidance if they make a mistake. You know, give your opinion or your side of it, if you think that there's a mistake has been made. But all of this is important in order to be able to communicate effectively and being transparent, adapting to your members' styles, leading by your examples, and making sure that you've got challenges embraced. And then you take some time to celebrate some successes when they come along. All important stuff. Now, you've heard me say this quite often on the leadership perspective, and Lewis, from your perspective, um, you know, certainly, back in the day, there were other tools and certain things that where people were like, well, you can only be a good leader if you're top red. That was something that came out, didn't it, at time to time. I love this piece of work, and I think if more people could appreciate it, they could build more confidence in themselves as a leader by understanding their style. How did this come about?
Yeah, very much. So. Well, for all the reasons that you just saying, you begin to look at organizations and realize that, not one particular leadership style suits everybody. And the fact that people will typically drift or not drift, but maybe be attracted to somebody who's either significantly like them at the beginning, but then realize, well, they're already saying the same or thinking the same way that I am. So then people start to go, okay, I appreciate that. For example, let's say that somebody's a very strategic leader. Others they look for that mission. They're looking for that. I want to get something done. I want to achieve something pretty quickly. The yellows, as you well know, tend to kind of paint the vision. And there's lots and lots of compassionate, relatable leaders out there as well. And just understanding that if you're going to be an intentional leader, at some point, you need to do or we need to do all of these different exhibit some of these traits when and as is necessary.
Absolutely, yes. That's a really good point. Again, if you go back to your percentages and you understand each of your own percentages, you'll see which one you go to naturally, of course. But then you need to see the one perhaps you don't go to naturally, or the one or two that you don't go to naturally, and then be able to dip into those wells, and reach that piece. So for me, to try and get to strategy is really difficult. I tend to have, some top color greens around me, not by design necessarily, but just actually because they can help me with the strategy, or certainly, top and second color greens. They can help me with strategy whereby that's not my go-to. But then vice versa, I can help them with inspiring others and making positive moves forwards. So again, it all depends on how you see things. But the key point to this, I feel, is about giving people confidence. Let's have the confidence to be ourselves and natural tendencies, and know, I will know, I know of plenty other top colours, who don't necessarily see themselves as great leaders. Well, why not? Why not? If they understand, for instance, if they're a strategic, compassionate, or indeed inspirational, directive leader, see yourself as a good leader. See yourself as a good leader to be able to bring around the results you would like to get. And you might only be leading your family, right? Um, Could the last of Andy says, could the last of the red, green, and blue all be considered potential limiters, possibly? Andy, what do you mean there?
So I see, I've read through them all, and I'd like to think I can display most of these
Yeah.
with my leadership style. However, setting high standard and seeking perfection, is that sometimes a little bit of an ask when some people can't necessarily meet your expectations, the same as expecting consistent effort and dedication, as well as holding people accountable? Could they be perceived as negative?
I think if overplayed, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, if you if someone was constantly driving perfection as a top green, that could maybe potentially cause other people to not be able to reach that perfection and then cause conflict, right? So yes, there's a potential there for sure. And from a red perspective, very much about very task focused and wants consistent effort and dedication. Um, and not everyone's going to do that, but then you won't end up working with those people, or you won't, if those people are not able to live up to what you need them to be, then they're not achieving perhaps what they need to achieve in the business, right? So it all depends. But I think if you overplay things, you know, you can cause potential issues for sure. Having a little bit of leeway whilst making sure that your goals, your targets, everything's being reached, very, very important.
Thank you.
So I love this piece of work. I think it's a really great work. And when you put it in front of a lot of people in corporate, they see, I see the light bulbs go, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. So I can see the red leader, I can see the yellow leader, and now I can see my blue and green leaders. And okay, yeah, now I can understand this, because we all have value, don't we? When we put it into the high performing teams, we start with self and team awareness, and we can move all the way around this wheel. But actually, if you don't get these driving elements correct in the company or indeed in the team, it can all come apart. So you really must focus here to get these driving elements in place to ensure trust, diversity, inclusion, etc., all the way around that wheel. Because if we have the unintentional consequence without awareness, we could end up with some pain, physical or indeed emotional. But what we're really looking for is those better responses with intentional results to help as many people as possible really get a grip of their personality style and understand others as well.
Equilibrium.
Who's that? Is that- Oh, I've got a bit of background noise there. I thought someone was going to ask a question. That's okay. Can you think either in the chat box, or please feel free to speak up as well. Think about a time when you might have had a personality-based reaction that led to an unintentional consequence. So I can give two straight off the bat. My slightly disorganized self at times, not particularly logical. 9% green. Emma will say to me, "That's not logical." What are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. Like, I haven't thought about it that much. But I know I mentioned, I think on Friday, on Saturday, a little problem that I'd had with when we were writing our book, and I made a few changes in the book, and Paul Grant was smiling, going, "Mark, that's not logical. You haven't thought about that one, And I was like, ah. And Andy Ward with the radio, with Vocal Booth Radio, again, unintentional consequences, but actually me not having all my ducks in a row with all the details that he sends out caused me to have to use up more of his time. These are unintentional things, but they're definitely personality-based reactions when I'm busy doing lots of things. So there's two from me straight away. So any thoughts from anybody regarding that?
I'll come back to you then, talking about vocal booth radio, and say my potential limiters of being domineering and impatient have caused issues with other people who have had similar problems with the technology or not reading the detail. And or actually not so much this time around, but in the past, most definitely, when working with my event that I run, the frustration of people not reading the information I've sent out when it's clear that I gave them too much information. So yeah, most definitely I've offended people in the past by expecting them, and I'm repeating myself. I'm aware that everyone here has heard me say this, that assuming that I was the world's best communicator and they should understand what I'm saying.
Have you have you got a drill outside? Has someone got a drill outside?
There's some people working next door. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Is it intrusive?
No, it's fine when you mute, but it's quite funny when you're talking. It's like drill, Andy, drill, Andy.
Okay, sorry. I'll bring the mic. I'll mute myself now. Sorry, I
Lovely.
won't talk again.
No. You're welcome to share, mate. You're welcome to share. Thank you. Yeah, and Andy, actually, just in the chat box, I'm assuming that when I go back on Thursday, that absolutely everything will have stayed the same, right? But I do need to double check that on my.
Well, I was going to say, please do double check.
All
Don't
right.
assume anything. We all know how technology just changes. So that's why I always try and make people aware of what they understand what they're doing rather than just following procedure. So then when something does go wrong, they can spot it. And that's another assumption I used to make, and why you try and give all of the detail to avoid those things happening, but people just get bogged down with it all.
Well, I'm going to step change in safety tomorrow in Norwich for a big meeting, and then I'll be back on Thursday, so I'll check my settings. But thank you, Andy. Britt's been waiting patiently with her hand up. Britt, hi, how you doing?
Hi. I think the biggest thing that comes to mind as a red green is probably, as you know, having a blue husband.
Yep.
In our early days of marriage, I can definitely think of many opportunities where I could have responded with intentionality and it would have had such a different outcome. But in my haste of task, and also that's how I love my family, is doing things, getting things done. But if they are too slow or in my way, I can kind of become like a little bit harsh in terms of ushering them out the kitchen. And I think there were moments where if my husband as a blue makes a suggestion and I correct him, but I correct him and the information is correct. However, the tone is often not great. And that's something that I've learned over the years is just the gentleness and the sensitivity that I need to communicate, especially with blues. In that often the information that I was giving was correct, but it's how I communicated.
Yes, indeed. And you will have heard many different people over the years, so it's not what you said, it's how you said it. Yeah, it's a classic, isn't it? And Britt, whereabouts in South Africa are you?
I am in Mossel Bay. It's along the coastline, a very small town along the coastline, an area called the Garden Route.
Yes.
The closest city to me is probably Cape Town.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, because Danielle's got her hand up and she's in South Africa and she's just becoming an e-colours practitioner with us as well. So that's interesting. Danielle, hi, how are you doing? Thank you, Britt, as well. Danielle.
Hi, Mark. Actually, Britt and I know each other. We used to live in Mossel Bay and go to the same church.
Oh, wow. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. So I think Britt just summarized it quite a bit. And I love how she used the word usher them out the kitchen. So for me, especially in corporate, so everything starts off with green. I need to understand how things are working to be able to, and know where we're going to. So that's for me very important. If I don't buy into that, then I kind of withdraw, shut down, and I go into that kind of mode, and that's very annoying for myself. So I've had to learn to actually focus and then get into my blue mode and understand where everybody else is coming from. But the point that Britt made now is, like Andy, I give a lot of information. So I've had to learn to simplify my information a lot because I don't want any hiccups along the lines. I'm like, I'm giving it to you. Why don't you see it? And then my red comes out big time. And when the timeline is too short, then I'm like, just stuff it. I'm gonna do it myself. And then I go and I do it, and then I wear myself out, and then I'm tired. So I've had to learn to balance my energy as well. Learn to build in buffers, to give people time. And that's where I've really leaned into my blue side a lot because my nervous system goes into overdrive when I get to that point. And so I have to lean in. Otherwise, I just end up like having a whole lot of physiological challenges because I'm just too stressed out. So just finding the balance is really important for me. Thanks.
100%, Danielle. Yeah, thank you. And great that you know each other. I love that. I wasn't aware. So, and two red greens together, love it. But yeah, look, it's all of us about understanding, how we are, delivering our information. I heard Britt, I think, say last week about acts of service as one of her love languages, and that's one of Emma's as well. Because it fits into the red, doesn't it? Doing acts of service, it's really makes sense, doesn't it, when you sort of align those two things. So, brilliant. Thank you, Britt. Paul Hutchinson, you got your hand up, and thank you, Danielle.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on. Obviously, I'm quite new here, 4 or 5 weeks or something. But the more I'm learning about this, the more I wish I'd have had this back in the day. I was in retail management for probably 20 years. Started off with Virgin Outprice, and then went on to Hackett and Alfred Dunhill. And I could have used this so much better with my management of the team I had, particularly in London when I was managing 2 stores with like 20, 30 members of staff. It's so many things that I keep hearing here, and I'm thinking, wow, if I'd have known that, that would have really helped.
And that brilliant observation, Paul. Thank you. And that is the opportunity, isn't it, for all of us? Although Equilibria and e-colors has been very popularly used in the energy business globally for 20 years, it hasn't. We've taken it out in certain areas, but it hasn't reached as far as it could, which is why I'm here, because ultimately I want to take it out further. The new book is going to help with that. We've got a whole chapter on e-colors for education, but we've also got whole chapters on working with companies and developing ideas and things like that. Because you're right, I think I could have, if someone had introduced this to me at 10 years of age rather than 49 or 39, sorry, 39, 40 years of age, I don't think I would have made half the mistakes I made earlier in life. And I personally think that is a powerful thing. So the earlier you can get to people with personality diversity and help them start to understand themselves, as far as I can see, I haven't seen anything else negative about that. Ultimately, the better it will be for people to understand this about themselves as early as possible. So yeah, brilliant, Paul. Thank you. And certainly, yeah, that is part of our mission, is to take this as far as we possibly can. So good stuff. Jane, hi. Good morning. Good evening.
Hi. Oh, sorry, somebody else is talking. Yeah, it's like this. I'm having so many light bulb moments. It's awesome. With the whole thing. But going back into my corporate years when I was a government investigator, so I worked with a lot of police or ex-serving police, ex-service police. They're very red, very doers. And I realized I used to piss them off so bad, not intentionally. Because I'm the yellow, I'm always chatty, super like blah, blah, blah. I think they thought I was this little gobby shit that was like, sorry to swear to people, but they were like this gobby person that's just like, and then because I'm always asking questions, my green stepped in and I didn't realize I'm asking all these green questions, and they're thinking I'm being this gobby little shit that's trying to piss them off and make them look like idiots, because here I am, not a police officer, just being like my low-level investigator, and just annoying the hell out of people. And I used to get so frustrated, like, why am I annoying these people when I'm actually just trying to get more content? I'm trying to get more information. I actually don't understand what they're really saying. And they would just get so frustrated. Even like one of my best friends is red, and she's a coach, and she would try and coach me. And I would be always going, but why? I'm not understand. I don't get it. What are you trying to say? And I realize with reds, because I'm so low level red, I've really kind of like over the years butted heads with reds and come across as so frustrating to them.
Yeah.
But now understanding that I need to put a pause on my yellow.
Yes, and do you know what, Jane? I totally relate to what you're saying. As a yellow myself, I've only ever wanted to help. That's my thing. I've only wanted to help. That's my big thing. I've realised that actually I used to be quite a lot more annoying than I am at the moment. Always interrupting, always excited, And if I'm dealing with other yellows, if we can all like do that to each other, but even then, I've noticed it in other yellows now that when they've got uncontrolled tendencies, it's like, oh wow, it's a bit much, right? So again, it's like bringing our strengths, bringing our qualities, bringing things that we're really good at, and then making sure that we are managing those, like, there's talkative, over talkative is a really fine balance. And for blues, greens, and reds particularly, over talkative can be a bit of a nose. And so having the pause button is something that I was so grateful to be introduced to. So thank you, Jane. Yeah, that's brilliant. Lovely. Well done. Leona, I see you're not on mute. Leona, are you okay? Did you want to say something? I'll put her on mute. Okay, cool. So, Leona, if you want to say something, just give me a shout. All good. So, look, understanding that we can all have unintentional consequences by our very nature, and just being ourselves, is something that we really got to continue to work on, and that's what this group is about. Is continually working on and being willing to work on ourselves so that we can actually get better results, and ongoing success. So think about something where you had an intentional result. It's quite easy, isn't it, to think of the things where we go, oh yeah, that was a problem, that was a problem. It's quite easy for humanity to think about negative things quite quickly. Can you think of a place when you had a positive result? So for me, certainly, I'm happy to go first, and you guys, please put your hands up or speak up. But intentional results, that fast pace, that inspirational, that being that guy that I'm really comfortable being, being on a stage talking to 150 people, those, at a time at 4 separate events when we launched Life Remixed, those are the things where they were intentional results for me. I thought those things through, and I was like, yes, this is intentional. This is what I want. And that's when I got my play button in go. And I basically overcame my blue fears as well. Overcame a lot of my blue fears to actually get to that point of being intentional as a public speaker. And long may that continue. And we are looking to do more events as well. But being able to speak up, be intentional, be inspirational, be Mark, be comfortable being Mark. That's my big win, I would say. Anyone else got anything? Intentional? What you got in?
I'll come back to our exchange, Mark. Me digging into my blue and being able to be more supportive and more calm brought the positive outcome that we both required to give you the information that you need and get you set up. We had a conversation with me saying, well, I don't really see why I have to do that, but it was needed to bring that episode to a positive conclusion, right?
It's a really good observation. And I want you to know how massively appreciative I am of you saying that, because that's what I needed at that moment. Yeah, that's what I needed from you. I wasn't trying to be a nose. I just needed a bit of help, right? And you got that, you got to it, and it was lovely, and it came out in a positive way, and the show was good last month.
But that comes back to what Danielle was saying, though, when there's only so many times you can do that. If you have so many people that you have to step in, you will burn yourself out. You will become emotionally drained. And that's where, if I was in a corporate role, I believe that I would have to really dig deep and find a way around it, because as it stands, it's a friendly project that we're doing, a fun project. But if it was on that's why some people lose their jobs, right? Because they can't step up to what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of that as well is about finding your role, is finding in life, is finding what you're happiest doing. I'm not that happy doing lots and lots of detailed stuff. I'm quite happy playing the records or speaking or that kind of stuff. But the actual detail that goes behind it sometimes can be quite daunting for me. But I can get there, but it's harder. So I think it's important for all of us. But yeah, brilliant, Andy. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else got anything else they'd like to share? What's in the chat box there? Oh, Britt says pressing pause to allow others to contribute in meetings is a big one for me. Yeah. As I tend to solve the problem quickly and tend to want and actually, if you can see the problem and you think you can solve the problem, and this could be quite a high red or quite a high red, yellow, red, but if you can see that quickly, you just want to get to it and just crack on, don't you? It's like, well, I can see the problem, there's the solution, let's go. And if people are talking round and round, sometimes that can be really draining for a faster paced individual as well. So great share, Britt. Thank you. Daniel, I need to say
It's fine, Mark. It's fine. It's really okay. I don't mind. I like the different variations of my name. So for me, the movie that comes to mind is Queen's Gambit. It's
yeah,
like I can picture all of the moves in my head already. So I think even on a friendly project, Andy, that you were talking about, so for me, I'm working on a Camino project for youth development. And what I've had to learn to do is every time I've got these steps in my head and I can see the picture, ChatGPT has been my friend. I just chuck it all in there because that's a way for me to get rid of that energy, not rid, but transform that energy into something useful. And then I can simplify it and give that to them in batches. Because I find that this thing is a passion project. I love it, but the people are slow. And I like that slowness and my momentum because I'm a movement, besides read and doer, movement also helps me to calm down. So, and that's something that, and because it's a walking, it's a Camino project, it helps me to, so I've got to keep that goal in mind. It's like, I've got to understand what I'm working towards, why I'm doing it again, the green part, why I'm doing it. And then I can, sort of deal with it because I get very, very tired waiting for others to
yeah,
come. It's like the rabbit and the hare. I sort of had the hare and the tortoise. And for me, like I've got to learn to become the tortoise. Because if I don't do the tortoise, I feel like I'm never going to get there. So it's something that I'm worried about, or my fear is that without movement, I'm just gonna abandon the project. So that's also something I think we have to be aware of is why we are behaving this way is because it might be that if you slow down, you're just going to stop. It's something that I've realized about myself,
very
even with a passion project.
Yeah, very, very good observation. And I think finding balance is the key to all of this, isn't it? That's the key point. Finding that balance, finding that sweet spot where you can actually get the things you want to get them done, but actually, put that across in a way that brings as many people with you as possible. I think that's really a really interesting. Jane, that's a really interesting comment there about when people are trying to drag, yeah, because it shouldn't be like that either. I mean, we should be all together and looking at one another and going, right, there's great skills there, great strengths. Okay, what are we bringing to the party? But sometimes, certainly in certain environments, certain personality styles are viewed more favorably than others, and that's not what we're about in Equilibria. It's about actually what you bring into the party, and then what you bring into the work, the team, whatever it might be. So really important stuff. Um, here's a We won't look at this in great detail, but here's a 6-month leadership program that we look at, where we look at leadership alignment in the black boxes here, establishing baseline metrics. So we find questionnaires and get people understanding themselves and others, including the e-colors, lots of workshops, individual coaching, and indeed leadership debriefs, etc. And that can be 6 months, it can be 12 months. We can embed with companies, do all sorts of stuff, to be honest. But ultimately, we have plans, right? There are plans here that can be used and leveraged with your personal growth and indeed the growth of your clients, people you work with. Very important. Key points around real-time legacy. It's in your hands. We can't unknow something once we know it. Once you know it, you need to then go and work with it. You can accept or reject it, but you still know it. So it's very much about, for me, it was very much about let's accept this about myself and others, and then let's work with it and let's see if it works. And if it works, then I'll keep doing it. And that was a key point. So I always say to people, never take my word for stuff. We don't tell you things, we share things with you, and then you'd go out and test them for yourselves. And the testimonials, as we all hear from ourselves, and you guys, is all amazing. So, never allow yourself to become a slave to your potential limiters is massively important. It can happen for all of us, and it takes time and effort to manage them, as well as understanding our lower percentages. And only you can decide if you're going to allow yourself to get angry, frustrated, or disappointed. And that in itself is a massive statement, because how many times do you hear people say, "You made me feel like this," or "You're making me feel like this"? It's a very difficult conversation if emotions are heightened. But actually, the key point for you to be aware of and for you to observe is that actually, if the other person is getting angry, frustrated, or disappointed, then yes, there's communication that needs to be improved. but it's not your responsibility. You've got to do the best you possibly can, and that's what can be asked of you, because you have this pause and play. You have a moment of choice. Conscious choice is personal intervention. Intentional leadership is where we get to. So if you know your audience, we do huge amounts of work here. How I can be influenced, what doesn't work for me. If you look at so Jane, just thinking about what you just said, if you think about when you're working with reds, and you spoke before about how the red personality style can sometimes sort of, unnerve you, if you like, or whatever we might call it. Look at what doesn't work for a top red. Look how they can be influenced. This is really interesting work when you start to observe it. Look at your own quadrant, maybe look at your lowest percentage quadrant as well. Start to understand that this work has real power when you start to understand the people that you're working with. Yeah. Because ultimately, top color greens don't necessarily want all the story. Neither do top color reds. They don't want all the story, but actually making sure that we give the data or the points that need to be given. I love this, what doesn't work for a red, you ramble on without getting to the point. Yeah. You have no supporting data. These are important things that need to be understood. Now, I'm not going to dwell on this now, but I'm just showing it to you because it's important for you to see it. And also, we've got a lot more of these kind of things that really work correctly. Britt says, de-escalate the emotions with intentionality. Yeah, 100%, 100%. Because someone said to me once, you can't run a business on emotions. And I think that's very important. It's very much about making sure that we are running our businesses and ourselves with as much emotional detachment as possible, while still being, loving our families, accepting our families, etc. So again, this is great work. How I can be influenced and what doesn't work for me. We can look at that in more detail another time. Yes, we do, Jane. Yeah, we have feedback slides. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I can show you that. Here's more here. When good things happen, when bad things happen. We've literally pulled this information together for 20 plus years in Equilibria, and it's very, very powerful. And you start to look at things and you start to see people very clearly. I think I've shared with this before. One of the guys in Dubai said, I used to think it was all grey matter, but now I see the colours. And it's really clear, when you're working with people, it's really clear when good things happen, when bad things happen, to be able to see that person and be able to help them. I have to give feedback to a red, and I'm nervous about it, Jane. That's a really great admission, Jane. That's okay. Think about these things, and if you want a quick chat beforehand, but think about these things and how you're going to hit what you need to hit for the top red. And remember as well that personality is just the tip of the iceberg. It's not the character of the human being either. So again, you have to understand the character will be different. But if it's an open-minded, good person, they have a red personality, then make sure you engage with them in the way that they need to be engaged with, and you're going to win. When we talk about influencing and commitment, these are the ways that we approach each of the top colours. Be accurate for a green, be rational for reds, be inspirational for yellows, and collaborate a lot with blues, and be able to understand each person based on their percentages is vitally important. Potential limiters that might prevent other people from speaking up. We can see them, can't we? Jane, you and I were talking about the yellow, overly talkative or reactive or emotional. These are things that might prevent others or annoy others and frustrate others. But the same can be said for blue, green, red as well, if we're not managing them. So again, we need to make sure that we're creating that psychological safety for people and then communicating in a way that they need. I've sent you the intentional communication guide before, but if you need it or anything, just reach out. Happy to share this one with you. We print these and give them out in sessions, etc. Gave them out to 10,000 volunteers at the Houston Super Bowl back in 2017. These are just good things to understand about different of the 4 quadrants of humanity, different things. The tactical empathy thing would be more about for Lewis to talk about. Unfortunately, he's had to drop off. But if we're showing empathy, let's make sure that we do it properly, and let's make sure that we give people the empathy that they need if we understand them and we understand them better. Again, I'm not going to go into these in detail. I'm just flashing them up on the screen, showing them to you so that you can think about how things are. So as an example, I can see the fourth bullet point down, or so fifth bullet point for yellow. It says I'm a hugger, which works for some and not for others. And so I was at a meeting recently with a senior energy consultant person, really nice woman, and she's top color green. And we had a great meeting, and the session was amazing. Everything was great, and we went to shake hands, and I said, I feel like we need to hug it out, but I appreciate that top greens don't necessarily like to be hugged. And she said, no, I do like a hug. And I went, okay, great, come on then. So we hugged it out. So it's really it's an interesting piece of work to start to understand what each person needs and how to communicate that correctly. Jane, I'll send you that. Andy, there's a lot of stuff in the background that can be developed, right? And this, I'm just showing you some of it. I'm happy to have another call with you separately about that as well. But there's masses of work that we've asked for from people over the years, and we just like to show it and actually help people grow. So let's think about going forward, just to round up today. Which areas of your life are you going to be more intentional? I mean, you've already covered, Andy, do you think you're being intentional with your 90 DJs? Where you shared something the other day, didn't you, about using ChatGPT to soften one of your messages?
I did, yeah. I had a little bit of a flashpoint with one of our DJs. I constructed an email, and I thought, let me just run this through ChatGPT. And it came back and said, yes, it's very fair, but you may want to smooth off some of the edges here because it can be perceived as combative, whatever the word is, and gave me an idea on how to amend it, which I did, having made sure that it was in my own language, because I'm very aware that you need it to be in your own voice. But it did definitely flag up something that I would have missed. The traces of red were still there. And I went back and I got another really fiery reply from the DJ. And I actually put that back into ChatGPT, and they said, no, this isn't a discussion. You've clearly touched on something within this guy, and that there, you have two options on how to move forward with this. And I really felt like I had someone in my corner. It was great. I urge everyone to consider running things like that through ChatGPT.
Yeah, I've been doing things like that for quite some time. It's a very interesting piece of work, and it really does help. It's like a fast Google, right? And a fast, intuitive Google. So it's really useful for things like that. So yeah, brilliant. Yeah, and actually, I think the key point there was that it pointed out to you that even though you'd written sort of everything that you thought was good, there was still a moment where it still pointed out, well, actually, that might come across in a slightly different way. And I think that's a great piece of learning, isn't it? In how you're developing that. So brilliant, mate. Thank you. Paul, I see Paul Hutchinson's back in the house now. That's good. Going forward, being more intentional with your green over red style. I mean, I see you quite balanced, Paul, certainly, but green red is what you would lean with. Being more intentional, so not getting so frustrated with people or not expecting perfection.
Yeah, this is still my biggest challenge, I think, particularly waiting for content from people. I feel like I spend all my days just waiting for people to get back to me, and waiting for content to come through. And I really find it hard to manage that, because then I go, right, if I'm waiting for stuff from that client, I'll go and do something for another client. Then I start doing something for them, and I've got to wait for something for them. And I end up working on 4 or 5 clients at once. And I think that's where my ADHD has come from, having to do things like that. It's yeah, I'm not quite sure what the answer is.
Can I ask Paul one question, Mark? Sorry for interrupting. I used to be in that same position, Paul, building the websites. Have you ever considered, if you've asked the questions or shown them why the content is so important, maybe you haven't done a good enough job in delivering, I don't like to use the word good, in delivering the why you need the content and why it's so important for you to get it, and maybe that would get it to you quicker?
I think one of the things is I know what the deadlines are, but they're their deadlines. They own the deadlines, and they don't seem to be as concerned about the deadline as I do. So in my head, I'm going, if we don't get it out at this time, we're going to lose viewers.
I love it. It's
Whereas,
exactly how I used to think.
yeah, whereas they don't seem to mind. So I'm like, I'm stressing. And when I go back to them and say, look, this is why it wasn't done, they're like, don't worry about it. We'll post it tomorrow. I'm like, really? Yeah. So yeah.
But if they're the client and they're not stressing you out, then why are you stressing yourself out?
It's that whole perfectionism thing again, isn't it? It's if we've said 12 o'clock, then it's going to be 12 o'clock.
Mm.
Like if someone wants to meet me in Marbella at 4 o'clock today, I'll be there at 10 to 4, not 10 past 4.
No, I agree. There's a certain amount of respect there as well, which is lovely. Angela sang in Australia as well. She says, "I'm like that because we care." In the chat box, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And please don't take that. Again, it's about balance, isn't it? It's important to care and it's important to make sure that you deliver for your clients and everything else. But it's the flip side is making yourself feel pain or making yourself feel unhappy about something. So it's about balancing that out. So yeah, great shout. Thank you, Andy. Thank you. That's great. Thank you, everyone in the chat box there as well. My son Paul Grant says 10 minutes early, he's on time. You've trained him well, Paul. Britt says clients don't often understand the time it takes to get the job done. Yeah. Lead time is important. Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff in the chat box there. But yeah, look, let's be more intentional. Let's be more intentional with our results, our communications. Paul will stay on after this call. Paul Hutchinson, just have a quick chat on socials because I know I'm one of those people as well. Look, ultimately, make sure you've got balanced growth. You're being intentional. Is something out of balance? Are you giving enough? Because givers gain. There's an example. I call this the fulfillment grid. This is part of my life remix coaching. It's very, very important that you understand that you must have something going on each of these areas and be comfortable and be happy and satisfied with all of your things. So personal growth, relationships, career, etc. Everything you can see on there. I run this a lot with my one-to-one clients, particularly because I want them to make sure that they are getting a balanced result, a balanced life, more positive outcomes for what they would like to do in their lives. And again, it just helps people. The whole thing, Life Remixed, Equilibria, the whole balance is very much about making sure that we are getting those intentional results. We're getting things that we really want to get out of this life. Because we hold people accountable for certain things. Now, top red will hold you accountable for your results, whereas the top yellow will be more about the behaviors, the people. Blues will be more about the ethics, and greens will be more about the procedure. But that's how we hold people accountable. So we need to understand that's where we're coming from, but someone else might be coming from a different environment. How do we hold them accountable? Yellow, red, red, yellow will externalize and be more verbal. Blue, green, green, blue, more mentally and more internal. Red, green, green, red might be seen as more insensitive. Yellow, blue, blue, yellow might be seen as more sensitive. But it depends. It depends, obviously, on your managing your strengths and your potential limiters. But if you put all that together, accountability and the e-colours, all of a sudden you start to see the opportunities of being able to communicate better and get better intentional results. Paul Grant, do you want to say something? I saw you come into the call, mate. Are you okay? Do you want to share something on this?
Oh no, I think it's a nice slide. It summarizes things up very nicely.
Do you see yourself there?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I certainly see myself. I'm sure each of us will see ourselves in there and go, yeah, okay, that's how I'm holding people accountable. Is that helping me or not? So we start to understand a bit about ourselves. We spoke about legacy before, real-time legacy. We will send this out again for sure, but making sure we're understanding our intentional legacy, the future that we're leaving behind us, because moment by moment, we will always leave some sort of legacy and then empower others in order to pass that baton on. If we're going to be held accountable for legacy, we may as well be intentional in creating it. So we will send out the document. We've previously sent out a real-time legacy document. I'll resend that as well with the intentional communication guide as well. That's absolutely fine. But think about it and think about what you're doing. If from a yellow perspective, from my perspective, do I want to be remembered as someone just talks over people and just is just great fun and all that kind of stuff, or do I actually want to make sure that I'm in a position where people are understanding my motivation and where I'm actually trying to land my information. That is for sure. I want to be remembered well from every meeting that I have, and that goes back to the leaving people with the impression of increase for you being there. It's very, very important. So we've spoken about the self and team awareness. That's what we work on. That's what we work on a lot of the time. This is one of our team leadership surveys. So we would ask people questions and get surveys about where they are on that 8 essentials, so we can get feedback and create ideas with them. What are you doing well as a team? What could we do better as a team, etc. And again, this is all stuff that we put in place and we have ready. Another one is the team tune-up. The team tune-up is vitally important. People need to know their e-colors, and the e-colors need to be well embedded in the team, because people end up giving feedback to each other on their teamwork, which again is a really, really powerful tool. And it's something that can be really well used once you get going, because ultimately we want to appreciate. We want to move past doubt, resistance, tolerance, and we want to appreciate one another and get to where we really need to get to. If you want to get involved, please do. We're running e-colors practitioner training, so you're very welcome to join whenever you want to. Realizing potential for e-colors is important, and treat people as they would like to be treated. That's the key point. Treat people as they would like to be treated, not just us. Someone said a bull in a china shop earlier. I think it was Scott. Let's not be that. Let's treat people as they would like to be treated, giving them what they need from us. So I'll take off the share. Thank you all for being here. It's been a fantastic session. Lots of good chat. Any other business? Anyone like to share anything or any observations that they've had? Are we all happy for enough? I see Kerry there. Kerry, sorry. Hi, Kerry. Are you able to unmute? Would you like to say hi? Don't worry.
Sorry, just trying to unmute.
There you are. How are you? It's lovely to see you.
Yeah, good, thank you. I was away with UK Safety last week, working on their safety improvement program. So I had to put my e-colors to quite good use, because there's a lot of personalities, a lot of different colors, and when you're kind of in a room together for 3 days, by the third day it can be quite challenging. I find some people's behavior quite challenging, so yeah, it was good to reflect and remember that people have got different ways of working, thinking. It was really handy.
If we look at the bit I just showed about how you hold people accountable, you would be very much about the ethics,
Yes.
so your beliefs are very much like you say. Some people's behaviors don't sit well with you.
No.
That's how you, as from a top blue perspective, with calm, supportive, loyal, all those great strengths and some of those potential limiters. If you actually look at that, that plays in perfectly into why you would be potentially upset or bothered by other people's behaviors, because you're holding them to account because of the way you see the world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And I found that one of the things that triggers me is when people just complain. They haven't got any constructive feedback. They're very negative. They don't want to try. Their body language is kind of, I don't want to be here. And I find that quite triggering. But on your recommendation, I have read the Let Them book by Mel Robbins, and I kept repeating in my head, let them.
That's really good. That's really good.
Really good. Yeah.
It makes it, what that does for you, Kerry, and any other human being really. But what that does for you is it just allows you to be more peaceful.
Yes, I
to be
do feel a lot
more peaceful, more creative, more in tune with yourself. And I hope you don't mind putting you on the spot there, but as a top blue, I thought, oh, what a great opportunity to hear from a top colour blue. So, but yeah, really important, Kerry, and thank you. And so great to see you here, and we look forward to you coming back. And yeah. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Love
Just to say as well, I've had some leadership coaching with you, haven't I? And my goal was to make my face cooperate in such environments, and I can tell you confidently that my face was cooperating. So thank you.
That's so good. Yeah, you did say I want it's written all over my face when I'm not happy. It's so easy to see, and actually now you've managed to sort of control that. So that's amazing. Love it. Love
Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
Well done. Onwards and upwards. Great success. Right. Okay. I'm gonna love you and leave you, Danielle. Yes, you can hold on for a second as well if you want to. Otherwise, thanks all for being here. Great to see you all, and we'll catch up again very very soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
See you later. Bye bye.
Thanks, Mark.